It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, September 1st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's talking Flyers goaltending and the rebuild.
Again.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to kind of dig into the goalie rotation and individual expectations, as well as how the goalie situation affects where the Flyers are in this rebuild today. It is Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week and a new poll question for y'all, but there's a little bit of Flyers prospect related news out there, right, Russ?
Yeah, Penn State and Michigan State, they're going to play an outdoor game. I think it's January 31st, men's and women's, so it'll be a double header.
Love it.
So that's cool. And yeah, a couple months ago when I spoke to Jay Paterno, he had expressed the interest and said that once Beaver Stadium was going to, and I don't know what it'll be named then, maybe it'll stay the same, who knows, will get renovated, and then they're going to chat with the NHL, want to get Flyers, and Penguins going. And so to me, this is like the dry run for that. And that's what I had tweeted the other day. They're going to test it. They'll look at it. NHL people will probably be there. They'll check out the traffic situation. They'll check out all that. Cause to be honest, when it was at the big house, they had a massive traffic jam. And people took hours and hours to get out of it. If Barry Melrose wasn't on the same bus as I and didn't get a bus driver to basically hop the divider and go hop a curb and go on a different way, a different road that was blocked off, we wouldn't have gotten back to the hotel for like 3 hours, and we got back way before everybody else. So hats off to Barry Melrose for that. But that's how bad it was.
Right. But I think the other aspect of this upcoming game this year is that it's going to involve some Flyers prospects in Porter Martone and Shane Van Sage, who of course are at Michigan State.
Yeah. And that's a great thing, and it'll be a great experience. They'll go up against Gavin McKenna. There'll be all that talk where, Penn State people will probably be mad because they thought Martone was going to go there and he didn't. So yeah, there's a nice little rivalry here, I think.
I think so too. It should be a lot of fun. We'll definitely look forward to that. And it'll be, slightly before the Olympic break. So a good time of the year to check in on Flyers prospects and where they are as well, which of course we do all season long on this show, but that'll be a good benchmark time for those guys for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and I'll be watching. I don't think I'll go to that one, but I'll be watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be a fun thing to try to get to go to as well. Turning our attention to the Flyers goaltending, we have talked about the goaltending quite a bit. Last week, we talked a lot about rookie camp and the fact that Carson Bjarnason was pretty much it as far as solidly AHL prospect developing goaltender, and he was going to be the only kind of real standout at rookie camp, ostensibly. We may know some additional information related to that, but I think, we're looking at a team that ultimately now has 4 other goaltenders that are going to be in some sort of rotation, whether it's with the Flyers, with the Phantoms. And, I think that it is a really difficult thing for Rick Tocchet to manage here and figuring out how this works with trying to implement a new system and playing against potentially more than 2 goalies.
Yeah, I mean, or he's just going to have Kim Dillabaugh do it all and not even think about it. That could happen too, because it will become complicated. But there is a belief now that Alexei Kolosov would report to Lehigh if he had to. So maybe that means last year he wanted to get his NHL money, and he did. And maybe now he realizes with a year left on that deal and just RFA rights that, hey, didn't go that
prove
great
myself,
year.
right?
Yeah, I might have to actually prove myself to stay here. So, maybe that kind of stuff is sinking in. We'll see. So if that's the case, then I don't think that Ivan Fedotov will be the instant guy going down to Lehigh like people thought because of what went on last year. I've now sort of course corrected on that until told otherwise.
Yeah, I think obviously that does change things quite a bit, but it also changes things about what camp is going to look like, training camp for these guys, because
Right.
like you have to figure out how to give them all time at training camp appropriately, which is more difficult. And I think, when you look at the way the NHL preseason goes and the Flyers have 7 games, you think it's too many. And it is for the skaters. Absolutely. Right. But for the goalies, I think maybe there's a little bit of a blessing in disguise here to give them additional opportunities to show what they can do. And it gives the Flyers more chances to see Fedotov and Kolosov and figure out exactly what's going to happen.
I mean, there is a little of that, but the problem is there are only 2 nets.
Yeah, I know.
And Ersson's going to get one of them. So now there's only 1 net. And so it does really create more problems than even the other part that you're talking about. I think the way I would handle it would be get through preseason, get through training camp, play Kolosov the second preseason game, and then send him down. And that's exactly what I would do. And that would solve all the other things because you want Fedotov.
And you'll have 3 left.
Yeah. And you want Fedotov to play in the preseason as much as Ersson because, we'll talk about what the split might be for them. And I think that's probably how it will shake out. I don't think Kolosov will steal a job from Fedotov.
Yeah, well, then there's Dan Vladar, right?
So, I'm forgetting about Vladar for a moment. Yeah, Vladar is the true backup. So, yeah, with Kolosov, I give him the 1 game, send him down, and then
that still
Fedotov
plays
is like
out
other
correctly.
goalie hanging out. Yeah,
yeah,
it's still messy. You're right.
It is super messy, and so. You think in the first couple of preseason games, you're only going to see Fedotov and Kolosov, I would say, maybe with Vladar thrown in there just to, get his sea legs, so to speak, with the organization. But I don't see Sam Ersson starting in any of the preseason games until game 3 at the earliest.
He might start the first home game, play 1 period. And then
I guess if it's at home,
yeah, they put Vladar in, they kind of get all that out of the way. I could see that happening, and then I think they won't play much, and then I think at some point they either both go down or Fedotov plays a lot in preseason, Vladar plays the next most, and Ersson the least, something like that. But it's messy, and it is going to be something to juggle, but. Yeah, I mean, the 1 and the 2 are really decided. Fedotov's not going to beat out Vladar, so it's almost like they're probably going to carry 3 goalies for certain stretches of this year, unless they both report to Lehigh, which is possible.
I suppose it is possible, but I would say highly unlikely. And I don't think the Flyers are going to want to deal with the situation like they did with Cal Peterson, where they have to carry the salary cap hit again. I think, we're lucky it's only 1 year at this point. It's not 2 years like we had with Cal Peterson, but still, it's just such a pain to have to carry that NHL salary cap with those guys. And then you still do have to develop Carson Bjarnason at the AHL level. You need to get him in a lot of games down there. So the logjam is real.
Yeah, the logjam's real. Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I'd be lying if I said I did. But, yeah, I think they're going to have 3 goalies for a good part of the year. Maybe the way they'll do it is when they're at home, they'll only have 2 on the roster, and they'll have 3 when they're on the road. Maybe that's how they'll do it.
Yeah, it's
Because
going to
Lehigh's
be
close.
really
Like if they're an injury,
fascinating.
it's easy to deal with it as long as they're close, So, but even then, I don't know.
Yeah, Fedotov does have to go through waivers. Kolosov does not. So
Nobody's
there's
picking up
also,
Fedotov's
well,
salary.
I understand that, but it's still part of the process. And
Yeah.
I just have to
Sure.
say that. But I think, yeah, this logjam is a very interesting and unique challenge for Rick Tocchet and Kim Dillabaugh. And I still think, when all is said and done, Sam Ersson should be getting 65% of the starts, but it's going to be closer to 55 because of the 3 goalie situation.
I mean, I'm not doing the hard math, but I think the way I broke it down, it's going to be about 55.
Yeah, that is what it looks like. But we are going to get more into the expectations for these guys in terms of where their stats need to be in order to support this Philadelphia Flyers team in this portion of the rebuild and what it means for the rebuild. We're going to do all that coming up next.
The NFL season's almost here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. I'm going to still say go with the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're a good bet to win the Super Bowl. You get some odds. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We have an important request for y'all. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. The link is also in the show notes. On the Wednesday show, we are very excited to announce that we will be talking to Lehigh Valley Phantoms head coach John Snowden on the show. Super excited for that conversation. If you have any questions for him you'd like us to ask, please let us know. And if you have any mailbag questions for us, we're going to push that mailbag to the Friday show because of that interview. So you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Send us a message on any of our socials or comment on our YouTube channel. Very excited for that episode. So getting back into our goaltending conversation, we talked a little bit about the rotation and the logjam, conversation and the kind of tweaks to that with Dan Vladar in the picture here. Looking at where the Flyers are in terms of expectations, we've looked at the big picture and said, okay, they should do at least as well as they did last season record wise, maybe, 3 or 4 more wins overall. But goaltending is going to be a big part of that. And can they meet those expectations or even exceed them with the goaltending that we have? And so, looking at what we know about Sam Ersson and what we know about Dan Vladar, like, where do you think, Russ, their stats need to bear out in order to even meet that kind of plan?
Yeah. So, for Vladar, it's going to be a change, right? Because the defense is a little bit less than what he was seeing in Calgary. And I went and looked it up on Quant Hockey, and Freddie Anderson was the 33rd ranked goalie at an .899 save percentage. That is my lowest baseline. Like, if you're not at that, you're really not helping the team. And obviously nobody was at that last year who's on the team. Vladar, I'd have to look up. He's probably a little better than that. But at any rate, that's where they have to be at least. Because if you're not that, then you really are just a backup. And if your team save percentage is not that or close to that, let's say it's 898, I'll be forgiving. But if it's not that,
which was Dan Vladar's stats last year, by the way, exactly on the nose.
And if it's not that, then no, you're going to have a problem this year again, because the goaltending will derail a lot of things.
Yeah. And I think, when you're trying to implement a new system, and I alluded to this earlier, Rick Tocchet is trying to implement a new system here and get the skaters to buy into it. When you have, 3 or 4 goaltenders that you have to play that in front of, that is a challenge. And it's also a challenge for these goaltenders to play in front of a new system, right?
Yes.
So I think for Sam Ersson in particular, he's been pretty locked into working directly with Kim Dillabaugh with a John Tortorella system, right?
Yep.
With a lot of shot blocking. That's going to change. There's still going to be shot blocking, but the way the Flyers play defensively in front of him is going to be vastly different. And maybe it'll work to his advantage. Who knows? Because if he can see more, because he isn't dealing with as many shot blocks, maybe his save percentage goes up, right?
Maybe.
From the 883 where he was, but it is going to affect things.
It will. I mean, that would be the hope that that's what happens. And yeah, part of it's on him and part of it's on the team, right? But it falls on him. That's unfortunately with the goalie, it's going to fall on them. There's 82 games to go around, right? And like I said, I didn't feel like doing the percentages. I broke it down like this. If I were the goalie coach, I would have 48 for Sam, 30 for Vladar, and 4 other starts. So that's like, you want to split it between the 2 Russians. You want to give it all to one of them based on merit. Fine. And that's kind of like how I do it without knowing what injuries might be or whether playing into it, like there's a game canceled or something, who knows. But I'm just saying that's how I would have it drawn up.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that knowing the Flyers and knowing what they've done in the past with this situation, I would say that the Russians are going to get probably 6 to 8 games over the course of the season, just at baseline without any injuries. I think that they're going to have to find a way to work them in, because they're going to want to see what they have, and they're going to have to try and figure out a way to potentially sell one of them. And so they're going to have to put them in more games than that. I would not even be shocked if it was up to 10 games even for Fedotov, which is not ideal. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it.
Oh, no, I know.
I'm saying, like, based on our past experience and assuming Kim Dillabaugh has an outsized voice about this, as he typically has done, I can't see them going without 8 to 10 games even.
So for argument's sake, if you're giving 10 games to the Russians, to me, Vladar still has to play 30 games. If he doesn't play 30 games, you've wasted your money. Like, that's so, and that means that Sam,
and that's why he signed here, right? Because he thought he was going to get the opportunities, and he played exactly 30 games this past season. So if he gets any less than that,
it's not good.
It's going to be it's not cool. It is just not cool. And I think that we're not going to see the potential of what Vladar can do without the minimum 30 games.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's a big thing. So again, now you're talking 40 games, so then that's 42 for Sam. Okay, I mean, it's a few less than you'd like to see. And honestly, if the team is doing better, I don't know if 42 is enough to say next year, okay, Sam's ready for 55.
Give him an extension, right?
Right. And we're going to pay him big, and now he gets 55. Like, that's now that could affect that too. So it's all very complicated right now. Now, like you said, maybe at some point somebody gets traded, and then that solves a little of it. Who knows?
Right. And I think that, zooming out a little bit here, we do have all of these goalie contracts to consider, right? And And you have to be able to make somebody tradable. I mean, you can let somebody walk. And I don't necessarily think, like, if Ivan Fedotov walks, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in the big picture. I think that in the most perfect ideal world, you want to have assets that are worth something,
Right.
and you can make a trade. Like, could you trade Fedotov for a 5th round pick even? I don't know.
If you
Like, I
take half
really
his
don't.
salary, you probably have to
Yeah.
eat half his salary, or
For
more.
for the remainder of the season.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. And is that doable? Probably.
Yeah.
But I also think that there is a world where you can let him walk, because he is a UFA
Yeah,
at the
he's
end
a
of the
UFA.
season.
Yeah.
And so, could you eat like $500,000 in retained salary to get a 5th rounder? Like we were just saying, sure. But I do think that they're going to at least make an attempt to try and make him sellable.
Right. Yeah. We think, like, we don't know. We don't know what their agreements are with these guys, these handshake agreements.
Yeah.
Like last year was weird. Could it be weird again this year? Probably, because we saw
Very
it
weird.
last year.
Yeah, because literally the only goaltender we have under contract past this season is Dan Vladar.
Right.
I mean, we have Carson Bjarnason on an ELC, but
Right.
that aside,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a
this
huge,
is how they wanted
huge.
it. Like, that's how
Yeah,
they
I
wanted it.
know.
Like
I know we're just
3
like
years
throwing up our
ago,
hands here, but like, really,
a few years ago when this was done, it's like, okay, the thought process probably was, okay, this is great. We'll see. This will give us the time to evaluate, and we'll know all the answers then. There's a possibility that
they don't
after
know
the
anything
season, they
now.
don't know all the answers.
Yeah, I know. It's very frustrating, but it also does affect the rebuild again.
It does.
Because, we're expecting to take a step forward, significantly so, not this season, but the following season. Can we do that if we still don't know the goaltending situation, or don't have a more ideal goaltending situation? Now, teams have done well without an ideal goaltending situation. Look at the Edmonton Oilers making
But
it
theirs
to.
is still way better than
I
this.
know. That's the thing.
Well, last year's this.
Correct. So, there is a world, but it's a very, very tiny world that's from a star very, very far away.
Yeah, I would, without going down that rabbit hole, I would just say it's like this. If they get the same goaltending as last year, some players can make step forwards. As a team, they're not going to. There's no way they're going to be able to. It's going to derail a lot. It's going to frustrate the coach. And that's the way it's going to be. And then players will just have to, make those step forwards on their own. But, as far as the team, if you come out of this season and none of them are your starting goaltender, you're in trouble.
Oof, I do not want to think about that, but we will when the situation arises.
We're paid to analyze it. That's it.
Yep. All right. Well, it is Monday, so we will, of course, be talking about our nemesis of the week, as well as our new off-season poll question. We've only got a couple of those left.
Yeah.
As we get into the main training camps, etc. So excited to talk about that coming up next. All right. We briefly mentioned the Edmonton Oilers as it related to their goaltending situation. But before we dig into our poll question, there's a lot of swirl out there around Connor McDavid and his contract. And it is interesting times in Edmonton. That is for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Connor McDavid was up on a panel with Sidney Crosby in Milan. And so first question asked to him was about his contract, and he joked and said, "You're not even going to give me a softball Olympic question?" Okay, which I thought was really funny. But basically paraphrasing him, but he said he's taken his time with the contract and that he has every intention of winning in Edmonton. So it's still a little muddy, but it's like he's basically putting all the pressure on Edmonton to win, because if they were to have their worst season ever, he's probably going to come in with like a 3-year deal and say, give me a 3-year deal for, like, I don't know, $54 million, something like that. If they have a great season, then he might say the 8-year deal because they still could give him 8. So that's the play, and I think that's why they're taking their time, because it's Connor McDavid. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
That is true. Yeah, on the Locked On NHL show on Friday, we talked about the Oilers and everybody's sort of talking about the Florida Panthers and can they three-peat? Well, three-peating being a Stanley Cup runner-up is also something. So we talked about that three-peat and the feasibility of it. So take a listen. It was a fun conversation. Kirill Kaprizov is the other big contract kind of hanging out there, and we'll see what happens with him.
He's going to negotiate. Apparently, I think it was Elliot Friedman said once he's back in the U.S., he plans on sitting down with them. And again, if I'm Bill Guerin, he can't get up from that table. Like, I have to have the deal done. Even if I'm making him the highest paid winger in hockey, even if I'm making him the highest paid player in hockey for a year, whatever. He can't go. If he goes, they're in deep, deep trouble. So whatever you have to do to concede here, they pretty much have to do it. But he's not going to become a free agent. I'm pretty sure that they're going to back up the Brinks truck for him.
Well, in the meantime, the rest of us can fantasize about these two guys being on different teams, but it's never going to happen. That is
no. I mean, look, it's like anything else. Connor McDavid could be a Philadelphia Flyer when he's 35 years old. Sure.
Yeah, he could be the Chris Pronger that
right. I mean, but that's the most likely scenario if it ever happens would be that.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, turning to our off-season poll question here. We are going to make it goalie themed, as was our topic of conversation on today's show. We're asking you, what do you think the goalie rotation for the Flyers will be by the end of this upcoming season? Is it going to be Ersson and Vladar only? Ersson, Vladar, and Fedotov? Ersson, Vladar, and Kolosov, or something entirely different? Those are your 4 options.
It's great choices. Like, I can't even keep track of them all. That's why I didn't even mention Vladar at the beginning, and you had to remind me. Like, there's just too many goalies. It's like, how many goalies, guys? Come on. Make it easy for us to do this show.
Well, we're excited to hear what your thoughts are on the subject. The link to the poll will be in the show notes, and it is on our YouTube channel. For our Nemesis of the week, last week, I talked about wanting the Flyers promotional schedule, understanding we just had a holiday weekend. They weren't going to put it out over the holiday weekend. No. So I'll give them a pass on that. But this week, I want it this week.
Other teams Flyers. Are out. Like, we want to see it.
Yeah, you talked about the Olympic rinks, and we still haven't have any proof of concept that they exist and they'll be functional.
They do exist. I know they're definitely being built. I know they've shown a little bit of it. I've not seen an indoor part with an actual ice surface.
Yeah, with actual ice blades on said ice.
I'll forget that. I think that's happening in December, like they thought originally, which is crazy to me. But okay.
Cutting it close. For my Nemesis this week, I'm going with the Mitch Marner situation because, he has talked, since the dust has settled with everything, and now that he's going to be in Vegas, talking about his departure from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, I think there's a lot of reason to criticize Mitch Marner, the hockey player, like on the ice.
Yes.
And there's a reason why he's no longer with the Leafs, but the kind of vitriol that he's had to deal with as a result of that drama and the departure and from Leafs fans,
home address being put out there, him
he had to hire security.
No, that's wrong.
Awful. Absolutely awful.
I felt really bad.
Yeah, and so he should not have had to deal with it. And I am so sorry to Mitch Marner and his family and friends who have had to deal with that. I'm not sorry that he's a multi-millionaire making a lot of money for him for sports. And I'm not too keen on the Vegas Golden Knights, so I'm not wishing them a ton of success, but I wish him peace and happiness in his personal life.
Well, that's nice. I'm sure he'll sure that's nice. I'll tell him next time I see him. I'll tell him. Yeah, my Nemesis, I'm going to set a high bar for the Chinese takeout industry, and I could change the whole industry overnight. And this is how you do it. So I don't eat every vegetable on earth, right? So
Why am I not shocked by this? But continue.
But I eat some, and I like, there's a rotation of 3 or 4 that I like. And so, like, if you order something, let's just say it's chicken and cashews, right? There's a bevy of different things that'll be in there, right? All places vary. Some places do what I call the kitchen sink, and that's just like every vegetable they own in the place is in there. Sometimes I would call and say, hey, no celery or no this, and then they load it up with other stuff. There's no way to get everything that you want in one of these dishes. Like if I get this chicken and shrimp one that I get, it's like 5, 6 different vegetables. I eat like 3 of them. I pick the rest out. What I'm suggesting is like what Burger King does is have it your way. Why can't I have a choice of like 6 vegetables to have in that wok,
my God,
and let me check it off online and pick the ones I want? Why can't I do that?
Well,
like
first off,
be perfect.
Like comparing Chinese food to like Burger King is absolute madness.
The concept of have it your way. That's what I was.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But now speak to the concept.
I mean, I think the issue is that they pre-make the vegetable mixes, and they have their vegetable mixes and they're already like cooked essentially. And when you order it, they kind of reheat it, finish out the cooking process of the meat and throw it all together. So it's already like, that's already done for them to like hand pick out. Cause you're a picky
Charge me
eater.
$2
Like,
more. Say, hey, listen,
come on.
Charge me $2 more. I'm sorry. They're not the cheapest of the industries, right? They're always the most expensive.
It's not like a sandwich where you're like pulling the individual ingredients out and then you can do that. But like,
no, this is doable. They all have their kitchens. This is completely doable.
I think you're asking too much. And also you need to broaden your vegetable horizons.
No, that's never going to happen.
All right. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back on Wednesday with our John Snowden interview. Very excited for that. Let us know your questions for him or your mailbag questions via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen. Today, for your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Like I said, we talked about the Oilers on the Friday show. It was a lot of fun. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.